Nigeria activates mechanism for combating Lassa fever and vaccine license.
To continue in this path, it is conceivable that we may one day have an effective Lassa fever vaccine.
Senate convenes interactive session to scrutinize 2025 budget of 49.7 trillion naira.
Rehabilitation of Abuja-Kaduna Highway will be delivered in 14 months. Minister of Works promises Nigerians.
And then good morning, Nigeria. Today, we shall take a look at making Nigerian highways metrable.
Well, I recall our days as young students, especially during, vacation or even resumption time. Road trips were usually my favorite, very exciting and enjoyable. As teenagers then, it was a sheer pleasure looking through the car windows and, of course, enjoying the cool breeze of the season and also taking stock of nature's gifts along the highways.
Of course, remember counting the trees and wondering why they move so fast. Well, okay, I would say this resonates with me too. Road transportation had its blissful memories, one I can never forget in a hurry. Sadly, that experience pales in comparison to what is obtainable now. From bad and deplorable roads filled with potholes to death traps that has claimed several lives. The situation on most Nigerian roads today is nothing to write home about, with many shying away from the rigors of road transportation these days.
Well, we can't really say successive governments haven't tried, but it's a rather sad situation, and it's one that makes us wonder why the deterioration, considering that, of course, road transportation is one of the commonest and most extensively used form of transportation in Nigeria.
Indeed, it is so terrible that a 5-hour drive from one state to another under normal circumstances can take up to 12 hours because of the abnormal and unsafe conditions of our roads and highways.
Well, I recall that the previous administration under former President Muhammadu Buhari attempted to rewrite that narrative with an executive order 007 of 2019, and that's on road infrastructure development and refurbishment tax credits initiative. Now, that was a very laudable agenda, and it was well applauded then.
Absolutely, Claire. Now, this agenda was indeed welcoming. However, if you recall, in May 2024, the Federal Road Maintenance Agency, in another ambitious move, unveiled a comprehensive road infrastructure plan in line with President Tinubu's Renewed Hope agenda. Some of the key highlights include major rehabilitation of strategically selected roads across the 6 geopolitical zones of the country, maintenance of optimal levels of repair along the entire federal highway network, and institutional strengthening initiatives within FEMA, as well as exploration of alternative funding, among others.
But just on Wednesday, the Minister of State for Works, Mohammed Gronyo, expressed concern that the current budgetary allocation of 64.88 billion naira to FEMA was grossly insufficient, given the critical role that that agency plays. Now, he also said that the agency would need about 700 billion naira annually to maintain federal roads nationwide. So how then can we achieve a metrable road network across the country with funding as one of the major setbacks? We'll have assembled guests who will try to prefer solutions, give us answers, and of course, give us an insight into the road forward. And that will be in a short while. But let me welcome you warmly and gladly too, because today is Friday. I am Claire Adilabu Abdulrazak. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
I can see you're set to boogie later today. Anyways, that's off camera. I'm Henry John, talking about the roads. It's a situation that requires urgent attention as the bad highways have become a harbinger of insecurity, with hundreds of Nigerians meeting their Waterloo across the country on these highways. Just like Claire did, I welcome you especially to the program. This is Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. This is Africa's largest TV network. In the course of the program, we'll bring you news, paper review. Then Chukwudi Okolo will join us. But for now, we have Musa Abubakar with us, and he's ready with the morning news. Musa, good morning to you.
Good morning, Claire. And here's the news. United Arab Emirates President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan has accepted Nigerian President Bola Tinubu's invitation to visit Nigeria this year. The Nigerian leader invited him during their bilateral talks on the sidelines of the Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week 2025. A statement by Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, notes that the two leaders also explored attracting investment into Nigeria. President Tinubu reaffirmed that his government's economic reforms are yielding fruits and called on the UAE to partner with Nigeria to develop the economy. Nigeria's 2025 budget of 49.7 trillion naira has been described as ambitious, necessitating the Senate convening an interactive session. This allows all segments actively participate to make it fit for purpose through implementation to meet the needs, hopes, and aspirations of citizens.
This budget is our collective responsibility, and we must take it soon. Its success depends not only on those in government, but on every Nigerian, on our shared determination to demand transparency, embrace accountability, and ensure faithful implementation of the budget whenever it's eventually passed.
Nigeria Governors Forum have reiterated their support, or governors rather have reiterated their support for comprehensive reform of Nigeria's old tax laws. A communique signed by its chairman and governor of Kwara State, Abdulrahman Abdulrazak, the forum endorsed revised value-added tax sharing formula to ensure equitable distribution of resources, 50% based on equality, 30% based on derivation, and 20% based on population. The meeting recommended that there should be no terminal clause for TEDFund and ASENI and NITDA in the sharing of development levies in the bills, while supporting the legislative process at the National Assembly. The Petroleum Industry Stakeholders Forum is important for critical stakeholders in oil and gas to review the status of the industry, formulate policies, galvanize industry support, and resolve emerging concerns. Minister of State Petroleum Resources, Henneke Lokwibiri, said the forum will aid speedy resolution of issues by the policy-making and regulatory bodies, thereby helping to mitigate disputes and deepen cooperation among stakeholders.
Where the leadership of the oil industry will be together to discuss issues affecting the oil industry. Just like you have the bankers committee, you have the capital market committee that sits from time to time to address issues concerning those sectors. That's essentially the whole issue.
Nigeria has activated a new Lassa coalition and governing entity with a target of developing national prevention strategies to combat Lassa fever, a disease of regional and global concern. The Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare will now be working with the West African Health Organization, WAHO, and support from the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations on the project.
Path, it is conceivable that we may one day have an effective Lassa fever vaccine that can be rolled out to stem this disease.
All arrangements for rewarding of contracts for the rehabilitation of the Abuja-Kaduna Highway Section 1 has been concluded. Whether approved by the Federal Executive Council, the reconstruction will leverage its fund from the Renewed Hope Infrastructure Fund. Minister of Works David Umahi promised to deliver the road work within 14 months.
I believe that the detailed explanation presented here today will bring to an end the politics of this project. We want the public to hold us responsible for the goals we have set for ourselves.
Well, that is the news for now. Good morning, Nigeria continues shortly with Claire and Erie after the break.
I am Oluremi Tinubu, the global and national Stop TB champion. Many people have asked why I've chosen to champion the fight against a disease like tuberculosis. My reason stems from a deep personal experience. I once had a friend who unfortunately fell ill and concealed the nature of his sickness until it was too late. Eventually, after he passed, we discovered he had tuberculosis. Sadly, due to the stigma and discrimination surrounding the disease, he would not speak up or seek for help. His death was a painful reminder that we could have intervened and saved a life if only we had known earlier. Tuberculosis is an airborne disease that primarily affects the lungs, but can also impact other parts of the body. Being airborne means anyone, regardless of their social economic status, can contract it. In Nigeria, one person dies of TB-related illness every 7 minutes, amounting to 206 deaths every day. Globally, one person succumbs to TB every 25 seconds, which is a staggering 3,456 lives lost daily. These deaths are entirely preventable because TB is curable if detected and treated early. If you or someone you know has been coughing for 2 weeks or more, coughing up blood, experiencing night sweats, or losing weight drastically, it might be TB. Please visit the nearest government hospital or primary healthcare center for proper diagnosis and treatment. TB treatment is free in all government and some private health facilities. Let us also remember not to stigmatize or discriminate against TB patients or those who have been treated for TB. Individuals who have been cured of TB cannot infect others. I call on all stakeholders, especially the private sector, to join us in the fight to end TB in Nigeria. Together, we can make a difference. Remember, TB anywhere is TB everywhere. End TB by 2030. Yes, we can.
Good morning.
Good morning. Why is your sun shining like this?
Can't you see that Harmattan season is here? We need to protect our children from this dry weather.
What about the invisible germs?
Invisible germs?
During Harmattan, it's not enough to only protect your skin. You also need protection from these invisible germs. To protect our families, we use Dettol.
Harmattan season brings a lot of germs, but Dettol with Germ Defense gives protection from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Be Dettol sure.
We're live in the open market for Epic 10X Challenge. My people, today now, today I will show you how the power of new Epic 10X gives your toilet a better cleaning than bleach.
Than bleach?
Yes, so.
Impossible.
Toilets have stains which bleach cannot clean effectively. But Epic is thicker and sticks better, which gives 10X better cleaning versus bleach and kills germs.
Oh, wow.
You can now see that Epic is better than bleach.
Hey Nigeria, ready to breathe cleaner air and save money? Let's talk about gas. Drive with CNG, the smart, cost-effective choice. Fill up for less and travel further. Save money, save the planet. Switch to LPG for cooking. It's cleaner, healthier, and better for environment. Say goodbye to smoke and eye problems. Do you know Nigeria is a gas nation ranked 9th globally with over 209 trillion cubic feet of gas reserve? Gas isn't just for cooking and driving. It powers industries too. Cleaner, cheaper, and more efficient. And the best part, conversion centers are popping up everywhere. It's never been easier to switch to gas. Join the cleaner energy revolution. Choose LPG for cooking and CNG for your vehicles. Clean energy for brighter future. This message is brought to you by the Office of the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, supported by the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Sales in here. Everything's on discount.
Yeah, I saw it already. But you know what? I've been thinking we should focus more on making things than just buying stuff.
What? You mean we shouldn't go for these awesome...
No. Hear me out, Nkechi. We are always chasing after new toys, upgrading gadgets, and buying things we don't really need. But what if we use that money to create something special?
Like what?
Anything! Instead of getting another fancy pair of shoes, we could start our own cool business together.
You mean we should become entrepreneurs?
Exactly! We could use our smart thinking to make something awesome for people. We might even make a big difference in our neighborhood.
You know what? You're right. We can learn a lot about money too.
Awesome! Let's be the heroes of our own story. Together, we can make a big change and break free from just buying stuff all the time.
One right action can make a big difference, right?
All right, many thanks for leaving it locked. And up next on Good Morning Nigeria, there's newspaper review.
All right. Thank you for joining us again. And Chukwudi Baja is here. Chukwudi, good morning.
Good morning, Claire. How are you today?
Very well. And
Nyere, how about you?
Very well. Good to see you, Chukwudi.
Same here.
All right, let's quickly. Nyere, you can start.
All right, let's see what the papers have. Let's begin with the New Telegraph this morning. The New Telegraph leads with tax reform bills. That's the kicker to the lead story on the front page of the New Telegraph, and it says governors in support of changes to archaic laws. That's coming from Abdul Razak. The riders reject increase in VAT. Proposed bill will harm public universities. That's according to Bochi Asu. All right, away from that, below the picture story, we have terrorist attacks. Influx of fighters from Sahel liable for resurgence. That's according to the DHQ, Defense Headquarters. Says military killed 156 terrorists, nabbed 146 suspects in 1 week. Beside that story, Rivers is the kicker to this one. PDP National Working Committee accepts judgment notifying Wike-backed congresses. Police barricade Rivers PDP Secretariat. Details on page 4 of the New Telegraph. And just beside the picture story, we have tension in Edo as APC forcefully ejects PDP from party's secretariat. All right, you want to find out what that drama is about? Page 27 will guide you. And above that, Abbas, Senator Kalu orders late Deputy Chief Whip on Anuga. And finally, from the front page of the New Telegraph, we have BPP saved Nigeria 1.9 trillion naira from contracts fraud. That's on page 5. Let's see the Vanguard now. The Vanguard also leads with the tax bills. It says governors offer new formula for sharing VAT proceeds. The riders propose VAT distribution based on 50% equality, 30% derivation, 20% population. Back to Tinubu on reforms. Why North is jittery over tax reforms. You want to see all of that? It's on page 5 of the Vanguard. Above the masthead, federal government to Emir Sanusi, we don't need your approval for Tinubu's laudable policies. You want to know where that started from and where it is going. Page 9 may guide you. Influx of ISWAP, Southern governors mobilize, activate regional security. That's on page 7. Above that, crude oil price would dictate petrol pump cost. That's according to Lokobiri. That's on page 19. And let's just quickly look below the front page now of the Vanguard. We have here how hardship drives some Nigerians to look for food in garbage. Not a good one. That's right here. And then Rowder session in National Assembly as IGP presents 2025 budget. That's on page 2. Finally, from the Vanguard, kidnapping. Nigerians may have paid 10 trillion naira ransom in 2024. That's according to Soludo. So that's the much right here on the front page of the Vanguard. Claire.
Okay, let's quickly take a look at Daily Trust. Daily Trust is leading with tax reforms. Governors reject VAT hike. Proposed new sharing formula. Stop scrapping of TET Fund, Naseni and NITDA. The details of that on page 4. And the picture story there, of course, members of the Nigeria Governors Forum and those of the Presidential Committee on Tax Reform Bills during the sub-national consultation and engagement with stakeholders at Transcorp Hilton in Abuja yesterday. And below that, families of Zamfara airstrike victims demand compensation. Israel kills 75 Palestinians amidst ceasefire deal. Presidency to Sanusi, don't undermine our reforms. And oil and gas, Lukubri assures of sustained collaboration. And just a little below the nameplate, truck kills 6 family members, 8 others in Benue. Abuja Kaduna Kanu Road ready in 14 months by federal government. And 6 terrorists, 5 soldiers die in Sokoto gun duel. Chukwudi.
Yep, thank you, Claire. The signs are that they are getting closer and closer to consensus on the tax bills. That's the impression you get. The governors are talking about VAT distribution based on 50% equality, 30% derivation, then 20% population. It all points to they are beginning to agree. And they are backing the president's tax reform bills, or tax reform. Governor Abdul Razak of Kwara State is actually coming out to say that some archaic laws need to be jettisoned and replaced by something more contemporary and satisfying the people's needs at the moment. I didn't read to know why North is jittery over tax reforms. That's coming from Senator Akpoti Duaga. So the point is they are coming closer and closer to consensus. The part of it that irks me is the feeling that TET Fund, Naseni, they are going to take a bashing from the latest tax reform bills. I'm one of those who feel that the science people, that's Naseni, TET Fund, Tertiary Fund, they are institutions that need really to be supported a lot. Naseni, for instance, is the backbone of industrialization, because technology derives inspiration from the job they do. So at the end of the day, let them just do something that comes close to satisfying the greater number of people. You can never ever have a situation where you have tax reform bills that satisfy everyone at the same time. It doesn't work that way in real life.
Also TED Fund, Chukwudi, if you go to most of the, maybe I should say some of the universities, or if not most of the universities, federal universities, you will see at least the structure of infrastructural structure of built by TED
Their
Fund.
Interventions.
Yes, the TED Fund intervention have been very critical, and I don't know the rationale behind the request for its scrapping, but I think it's one agency that has done really well for universities, education in this country.
You have a point, but I am also advocating a situation where the institutions themselves are also part of funding
internal generation.
Exactly. Gone are the days when research, R&D, was a very important aspect of how they run their lives. Because if they research and some new discoveries are made, whatever comes from such research work in terms of earnings would also go into beefing up what is being subsidized or what is being supplied from. I think we need to strengthen the institutions themselves to go back to those good old days when their research ranked so high and they were quite productive in that direction. I think that would help as well. Terrorist attacks, influx of fighters from the Sahel, liable for resurgence. That's coming from DHQ. What you want to know is what has caused the influx? Is it that our neighbors are fighting them better and they are now thinking that Nigeria will provide a haven for them? If that is the case, then that's not good news for us. Terrorists should not find Nigeria, more conducive than other places. Let them give them fire for fire and let them return from wherever they are coming from. Nigeria cannot be a resting place for them. It won't work that way. The World Bank is retaining Nigeria's growth forecast at 3.5%. Between 3.5%, actually 2.9%, according to experts. And 4% is not bad. When it gets to 5-6, they tell you could actually overheat. They have a way of explaining all that. So that projection is still healthy for us.
Well, I don't know if you have any other story. I'd like to talk about Enyimba's outing.
Before we talk about sports, really, there's this story that is, it didn't make the headline on the front page of any of the papers, but it's been on social media. And it breaks my heart because we had so many reports like this last year about children dying in schools. This particular one happened in Lagos. The report is that a 2-year-old drowned. Some say she was electrocuted. It's a very sad story. Sending your child to school and not returning, back alive. I'm just raising this just so that the Ministry of Education can actually, perform its duty. Why should there be a swimming pool first and foremost in the school? And then schools should play their roles well. When parents drop their kids off in school, it's not to come back to their dead bodies. We had so many cases, like I said last year, if you recall. So many stories here and there. I just think that school facilities that are not conducive for children to be in, to learn, should be shut down. And the school should carry out their responsibilities, well. We can't keep having stories like this. It breaks homes, it breaks families, it breaks individuals. Something just needs to be done somehow.
What we're alluding to is lax supervision at the end of the day. Well, they will tell you accidents would happen. That's a saying in English. But accident that is practically deliberate is no longer an accident. And that's a situation you would not want to. And it becomes deliberate when we do not do the things we need to do to preempt or ensure that such a thing does not happen at all. I think that for me, what breaks my heart, I hope your heart is not easily broken. Otherwise, the Nigerian situation would make it dire for you. What breaks my heart, in solidarity with you, is the way the child was electrocuted. The child drowned. That is not supposed to happen at all. It's just like what we were talking about concerning, was it friendly fire that killed the vigilantes in Zamfara? Was it that the pilots, the fighter pilots, did not get their coordinates well and all that?
Okay,
that aggravates the situation. I feel bad when that kind of thing happens. Let's come out clearly as to what caused the whatever. You know, so that
yes, just before you go,
yes.
I want also to commend, the military killing 156 terrorists,
nabbed 464 suspects, and rescued 181 abductees.
Yes, it's not all the time that we see, we want to hear terrorists doing this, but the military are also, doing something.
I'm a strong supporter of the military.
We have just 60 seconds to go.
But we have these regular reports about elimination on a daily basis, yet their numbers don't seem to be really affected much. Is there a disconnect somewhere? My 60 seconds should be up.
Yes, I want to, you remember Zamalek of Egypt. You know how they dealt with Rangers in those days. Now Enyimba is about to face them again, and their encounter will determine whether Enyimba qualifies for the quarterfinal, on the ongoing CAF Cup. I know you are not a fan of...
Exactly. I'm wondering why you're telling Chukwudi, because he doesn't watch...
but Chukwudi is a fan of Arsenal. I know you talk about Arsenal, but let us also look at...
I'm a fan of football, good football. Simple. ICC shooting stars. The days of Panda Balogu, Ogini Babuchi, Christian Madu.
I thought you would
give me that era, and I will support local football with everything I have.
I thought that you would have told us. You would have told us the
what am I doing?
The history of Zamalek and of Egypt.
I know they told you
that. He knows.
Zamalek, Hafia of Guinea. I know where she's coming from.
The producer is already standing in front of us like a colossus. So let's take a break. Good morning, Nigeria. We'll be right back.
NTA say thank you to all our viewers. NTA say thank you.
A good TV station means different things to different people. What made NTA stand out for you in 2024?
Babu shakka, babu wani gidan talabijin a ƙasar nan da ke nuna al'adu kamar yadda gidan talabijin na ƙasa wato NTA ke nunawa.
Kò sí ibikíbi tí ẹ wà ní orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà tí ẹ ò ti lè wo ilé-iṣẹ́ tẹlifíṣàn ìjọba àpapọ̀. NTA kétékété kódà tó fi di abúlé wa.
Standard NTA Bacharuru Okopa Okadigun Okoko now NTA Kalisiakale.
Trends, information, outstanding performance. NTA got the steez.
For decades, we've towered high with sponsors as partners and viewers as pillars. And as we bid 2024 farewell, we welcome you to a superlative 2025. Because at NTA, you can't beat the reach.
NTA say thank you.
The Nigeria Coat of Arms is the official seal that represents the authority of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, hung on the wall behind the seat of the principal officer of the government, supported by the portrait of the serving president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It has 7 features. The black shield stands for Good Earth of Nigeria. The silver wavy band stands for the confluence of rivers Niger and Benue. The 2 white horses stands for dignity. The yellow flora is a common wildflower throughout Nigeria. The red eagle stands for strength. The wreath is in our national colors of green, white, green. The motto, unity and faith, peace and progress, is written on a beautiful yellow ribbon, and it's a maxim for all Nigerians. Be a real Nigerian.
Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara. We rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree. We swear in colors, we stand up in demand. We make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Diversity is unique, we are more than just a nation.
We are Nigeria, we are Nigeria. Strength in unity, we know they carry love. We are Nigeria, we are Nigeria. Together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
The federal government of Nigeria warns vandals of national assets, electricity transmission towers, cables, and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipment will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
I think Amaka should just move out of the house. Yes.
No. Standing out of the house is not the right thing to do.
Oh, there you go again with your sentimental family stuff.
Baby, if our aim is to stop this affair, it is best achieved under our roof.
You do something terrible and you'll be acting innocent.
What are you going on about?
Don't ask me that question again. You couldn't even control yourself in the presence of our visitors.
What are you accusing me of, woman?
My son, I don't know how serious you are with my daughter, but there's something that needs to be done urgently before you move any further.
Anything, just anything, just say it. I'm ready to do anything.
There is a spell that needs to be removed.
A spell?
Family forever, the story of our lives. The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
All right, many thanks for remaining with us. Many thanks for remaining with us. It's still Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA. To begin our conversation this morning, which is on making Nigerian highways measurable, let's take this background report put together by Ibrahim Bello Gunda.
Transportation is the wheel that drives socio-economic growth across the world, with the road subsector responsible for 90% of mobility in the case of Nigeria. One of the infrastructures that will accelerate the realization and transformation of the dreams and expectations of Nigeria's economic goal is the road infrastructure, which should be the leading subsector that the government should make capital investment in. The completion of ongoing or abandoned road construction projects with the construction of new durable and quality roads should be top priority for the government, considering its importance to socio-economic development of the nation. Recent reports indicate that routes like Port Harcourt Warri, Abuja Kaduna Kano, Kano Maiduguri, Gombe Yola and Abuja Lokoja roads, among many other highways, are examples of roads that motorists go through with difficulty on a daily basis due to their deplorable condition. However, the federal government has carried out maintenance, especially along Kaduna-Abuja Highway, among others, but the amount allocated for road maintenance is grossly inadequate considering the enormous responsibility which the maintenance of Nigeria's road infrastructure cutting across the 36 states of the Federation, including Abuja, represents. An assessment carried out by a team of experts indicated that it will require over 700 billion naira to carry out the task of maintaining federal roads nationwide. Like what is obtained across the world, experts believed government should explore and embrace alternative means of road construction that is cheaper, cost-effective and suitable to climatic conditions in Nigeria. Some stakeholders are of the opinion that despite the substantial annual budget allocation for road construction, the level of implementation raises concern, especially looking at lives lost to accidents along the unmotorable roads. The process of delaying the funding of contracts also depletes government funds through frequent cost review of ongoing projects. It is worthy to note that the present administration has made gains in road construction with the mobilization of contractors back to site of abandoned projects, revoking of some unyielding road construction contracts, and the award for the construction of new roads projects. What is the situation of Nigerian roads? How can government improve its road infrastructure? This and more will be some of the questions guests on Good Morning Nigeria will find answers to on the program.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim Bello Gonda, for that background report and for the question that you have also given us. I think it's a very good way to start off our conversation. But first, let me welcome our guest in the studio. Senator Babangida Hussaini is Walin Kazauri, Chairman, Senate Committee on FEMA, and he's with us right here. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Nigerians, and thank you for having me.
We also have with us in the studio Engineer Saidu Hassan, immediate past Chairman, Nigerian Institution of Highways and Transportation Engineers. Engineer Hassan, thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Nigeria. Thank you for having me.
All right, also here with us, it's a pleasure to have the MD of FEMA, Mr. Chukwuemeka Agbasi. Many thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Nigerians. I'm happy to be here.
All right, I had said that our correspondent to give us the background report already posed a very good question to start with. I mean, what is the state of Nigerian roads? And of course, when we talk about Nigerian roads, we mean both federal and state, controlled roads. And how motorable are they? I'd like to start with the immediate past chairman of the Nigerian Institution of Highways and Transportation Engineers.
Thank you very much. A little background. We have a total number of about 200,000 kilometers of roads in Nigeria today. Among the federal government, state government, and the local governments. The federal government roads are classified as Class A roads, the state government Class B roads, and the local government are Class C roads. One interesting thing to note here is that out of these 200,000, the federal government is in charge of about 36,000 kilometers of roads.
As of today?
As of today, yes, by statistic. The state has about 30. Close to 85 goes to local government. So the local government have the chunk of our roads in Nigeria today. The other balance goes to private sectors in their estates and various places, companies and what have you. So from this statistic, like your reporter stated, we have about 90% of our movement of goods, services and people are on roads.
Federal roads?
Federal roads. You have a model of transportation, the air, the water, and the road. The road carry over 90%. This federal road carry over 90%. And it has the least number of this thing. So this is just a background of what we have today in Nigeria. And over the years, it's interesting to know that since 1971, we have the Way Commission for the reform of roads in Nigeria. Till today, from that Way Commission, we have not been able to carry out any significant reform in the road sector. because we have the Vision 2000, from Vision 2000 by the Federal Ministry of Work. Then out of the Vision 2000, you have by 2002, the act that formed FEMA was established. And even the FEMA Act that we are even executing today have not gone the whole cycle. The MD is here with me. He will be able to expatiate further on that. So these are what we are facing today in terms of our road sector. And you look at the reforms, all our critical infrastructures today have undergone reform. The communication, the power, and others have been reformed. It's only the road sector. One funny thing is that Nigeria started this reform issue before any country in Africa. Even Ghanaians that came to Nigeria just on a lighter mood to, participate in some of these conferences, took one of our resource persons back to Ghana. Today, Ghana are on reform, and so many other African countries.
I like to make this. I like to make this conversation more vividly and pictorial, so that people will have an idea of what we have. And that's why I'm just going to ask you before we, take the conversation to our other guests. When last did you have a personal trip by road to any part of the country? And give us a vivid picture of what you think our roads are, the state you think our roads are.
No, I've been traveling by road. The state of our roads are terrible. For example, today, I used to travel to Jos most weekends, which takes me between 2 to 3 hours. Today, if I'm going to Jos, it might take me up to 7 hours. So that tells you how terrible the roads are. The road has not been attended to.
That's from Abuja to Jos.
To Jos, just giving you a practical example. So many of our roads have not been able to meet their motorable standard condition that will enable free movement of goods and services. That is the facts today we have in this country.
What are the issues with the roads? Potholes or?
You have pothole and failed sections. And this issue of pothole and failed sections is not to say because of, one thing we have failed to do in this country is that once you finish a road, once you start the road, the maintenance starts the day you start using that particular road. The maintenance starts that day. But in Nigeria, we build the road, we don't look for maintenance until the day the road starts failing. So the day the road starts failing, that is when we start to think about maintaining a road, that the maintenance should start on the day you start using it. It's just like any infrastructure, any facility you are having, even your house that you live in. The moment you move into the house, you build a new house, you start doing your maintenance. You don't wait until some of your plumbing or electrical systems start going down before you commence your maintenance. So these are the basic reasons that we have as far as this road infrastructure is concerned.
All right. Many thanks, Engineer Hassan. Before we get into, the real gist, like Claire asked, I would like to find out, the experience of everyone here about, using the roads. Of course, I would like to get to Senator Babangida Hussaini. I know you're the Chairman Senate Committee on FEMA, but outside that, you represent Jigawa Northwest Senatorial District.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know that you have to travel by road.
Yes.
Do you know that?
No,
you should tell us. When last did you do a road trip?
Yes. Yeah. But, well, talking about Jigawa State, I think there are about 7 federal roads in Jigawa State. So tell us your experience, traveling by road. Just give us a picture.
Well, thank you very much. I think, let me first answer her. I travel by road very often. The last time I traveled was on Sunday, and I will be on the road today. Actually, I enjoy the adventure, and it gives me experience about the condition of roads. I just exited the federal service quite not too long ago, barely 2 years back. And in the course of discharging my responsibility as PAMSEC, Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, I had done a lot of road trips. So I'm quite familiar with the pictures that have been painted and the situation of our roads. They have gotten bad, that's the truth. And then, of course, speaking specifically on my state and where I represent, thankfully Jigawa is very well connected as a link between the eastern part of Nigeria and the northwest and north central part of Nigeria. So the conditions of the roads are fairly okay. Talking about Kano, Kongolam, which is under construction right now as I speak. Kano, Kwanadimawa, Kanya Baba Mutumboda Road is under construction, almost completed, about 70%. Kano Hadija is under construction, also more than half of it completed. The only, maybe one of the sole federal highway that traverses Jigawa State is Kano Maiduguri Road, traversing through Bauchi and Azare axis. So those are the real bad ones. But I think going back to what he said, the general picture is that more needs to be done in terms of improving our road assets.
Okay, let's bring in the MD of FEMA, and I'm just wondering.
Does it travel by road?
Okay, first you will tell us, if you do travel by road, but your skin doesn't look like someone who travels. Your skin color doesn't travel by road, but let me also ask, if you do travel by road, I'd like you to enlighten us on what, how we can measure, the state of a road. I mean, apart from seeing the potholes and all that. And I asked this question because some years back, I think that was in 2013 or thereabout, one of your predecessors, was reported to have, told the press that our roads are now in good state, multiple state, because a particular turbine was ferried from an airport to Kaduna safely. So that got me thinking. Is that a true measure of the state of our roads?
There are a number of parameters that can be used to measure the quality of travel on our roads. And one of them is what they call the International Roughness Index. It measures
International
Roughness Index.
Oh, okay, Roughness Index.
IRI.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And what that parameter measures is the drive quality you get on our roads. It's depending on the condition of the road. It's dependent on the condition of roads, whether you have potholes, failures, and so on. If you have a smooth road, the International Roughness Index will be of low value. Okay. But if the road has failed and is a bumpy ride, then the IRI will be high. So that's the international metrics for measuring the drive quality on our roads.
So what's our rating?
Nigerian rate is variable across roads. Good roads will give you low values, then bad roads will give you high values.
On the average?
So across the country, we don't have that statistics for the national average, because not all the roads in Nigeria have that statistics. But aside from that, you also have assessment based on the visual condition, which is what we currently use. So what you may be alluding to is classifications based on either good, bad, poor, or fair condition. Based on the current statistics we have today, obviously some people may have doubts about it. We have about 56% of our roads in fair and good condition. But again, it depends on, but this is what our statistics says. But that qualitative measure is always subjective, but this is what we have to do.
Does this include, does this 56% cover all the three trunk A, trunk B,
it's
trunk C?
primarily on federal roads that we maintain. And federal roads, as has been said, is about 18% of the federal road net of the national road network. Yes.
Now, talking about this, you said 57, is it 57 or 56? 56% in, you said 50% of our roads are in fair and good condition.
Yes.
Let me quickly give you the statistics. The IMF scoring on cross-country road quality measured the mean speed between the country's large cities using Google Map. Using it to evaluate road quality and accessibility.
Yes.
Now, when the IMF did that report, Nigeria did poorly because it was only better than 5 African countries. We're talking about countries like Rwanda, Burundi, Madagascar, and the rest. So I don't understand the statistics that you're giving. And if you say 56%, that's like more than half of the federal roads in this country are in good condition. Should I say that's what you're saying?
Remember that when this measurement was done, there are some areas of the country that, because of security issues, were not included in the measurement, like some areas in the northeast. Yeah, but based on the population size that was used, that was 56% in fair and good condition.
MD, I mean, you are the MD of FEMA, and that's the agency that is charged with maintaining our roads. And you heard Engineer Hassan talk about maintenance starts right from the first day. And I'm just wondering, can you give us an insight into the roads that constitute this 56% out of the federal roads? Do we have names, some of these roads?
Well, one of those roads that Lagos Ibadan, it's in a fairly good condition. Yeah,
when you say fairly, does it mean that when you travel on this road, you would have, because I know that particular road you mentioned, I mean, accidents happen on that road as a result of, the different parts that are not motorable. So when you say fairly, I mean, should we be traveling on roads that are fairly, okay? I'm just asking because, when you look at the rates of accidents, I was trying to read a report that talked about the thousands of deaths just last year as a result of accidents, due to bad roads. So when you say fairly, is it that, I don't know, should we be using the term fairly for roads that, of course, would lead to people dying, losing parts of their bodies and all of that?
Especially when you mention, when you attach fairly to Lagos Ibadan, such an extensive, busy highway, should it be in fair condition?
There are already works going on Lagos Ibadan Expressway, and a good part of that roads are in good condition. It's in good condition.
Anyway, we're not putting you on the spot.
Let me take you to the correlation. There's not a good correlation between the condition of the road and the fatalities you have on the road.
Absolutely.
In Abuja today, Abuja has the best roads in the country. But most of the fatalities are in our roads in Abuja. So it's more of driver behavior rather than the condition of the road.
You want to come in here? Yeah.
Yes, I think, like he's saying, part of the issues basically is some critical roads, and those are the ones that generate most of the attention. If you take Kano, Kaduna, Zaria, it's 100% completed, and it's in very good condition. Zaria, Kano is about 90% completed. Lagos Ibadan is about 100% completed, except for the road furnitures and then the associated linkages connecting the main road to other roads that are coming in. So I think part of the problem, I think, is about prioritizing critical roads that take most of the traffic. Looking at Abuja, Lokoja up to Benin and all of those major highways.
When you say prioritize, what do you mean?
Yeah, prioritization by way of looking at the critical roads. For instance, it doesn't speak well to almost allow a road that connects to the seaport to be in a deplorable condition. Taking out, you look at Ogbomosho, Ilorin, up north up to Sokoto. Those are critical roads that move goods and services from the seaport inland and from inland down south. So those are critical roads. And then you have the energy, critical energy security roads. Bidda, Lambata, Bidda, Mina. Those are very important roads that move energy products, the petroleum products, in and out of Nigeria. So I think one of the key issues is about prioritizing these roads and making sure that the critical roads are properly maintained.
Engineer, Mr. Gbasi, I know that FEMA has expert engineers. What triggers your attention? What triggers, your attention to mobilize? And I'm just wondering, how often do you do that?
It's a round-the-clock activity because we have offices in all the zones in the country. We have 12 regional offices and 36 plus 1 state offices. So what our engineers do in the field is to walk the road. They walk the road, see when there's an appearance of distress on the roads. It could be minor potholes, it could be sections where the road has failed. Then they develop a condition report on the road, then scope what works needs to be done. After the scoping, the estimate for the works that needs to be done is done. Then it now becomes a case of cash backing or funding the work.
Sorry, I'm sure you're talking about federal roads.
Yes.
Your responsibility is with federal roads.
Yes.
Because I was going to ask you, because even here in Abuja, we see some individuals take the responsibility themselves, to fix potholes, which shouldn't be. I mean, I can mention areas within the Federal Capital Territory,
And of course, we see state governors too intervening for the federal government, trying to fix federal roads. For example, what's happening in the Edo State. Yeah. Anyways, but let me get to Senator Babangida Hussaini now. Listening to Dr. Agbasi, he says 57% in terms of road being 56%. Okay, I'm trying to up the percentage. 56% fair and good condition. So I'm wondering why the Minister of State for Works is asking for more budgetary allocation to FEMA. In 2024, FEMA got 103.3 billion naira in 2024. You said the roads are good. This year you're presenting 66 thereabouts billion naira. That's in 2025 budget. But I listened to the Minister of State saying that FEMA would need about 700 billion. So if the roads are good, why would FEMA need more money?
Well, I'd like to go back on what Engineer Hassan said regarding the continuous maintenance of these roads. I remember some new roads are coming on board, and once the 6-month defect liability period expires, it becomes the responsibility of FEMA to manage them. I actually chaired the budget session, and I know how very disturbed the committee was in respect of the paltry allocation to road maintenance. And the truth of the matter is most of these federal roads were constructed in the early 70s and early 80s. And through natural degradation, they have outlived their usefulness. So the truth is, the money is really, in fact, 700 billion is just a drop in the ocean. You are talking of road assets of over 100 trillion naira. And the issues around road usage, poor road culture, the global warming phenomena, flooding, and a lot of vandalization, comes in. Go to our bridges. Yola Jimeta Bridge, it almost failed because of the activities of, the activities of vandals. They were removing the side railings and even attempting to remove the bearings that carry the weight of the bridge itself. So a lot of factors come into play. Good enough, this administration is also looking at ramping up the road infrastructure, the coastal highway, the Sokoto-Ilela, Badagry road. All of these roads coming on board will require additional funding. Like the engineer said, once you finish a road, maintenance starts from that very moment because a lot of factors come in.
You just mentioned the coastal highway, but why is it omitted in the 2025 budget?
Well, I think there are presidential initiatives, like if you could recall, the immediate past administration introduced the road tax infrastructure credit scheme for 12 federal roads. About 620 billion was off-taken by some of the agencies, like NNPC took about 620 billion to invest in the road sector. So I think those roads are also going to be funded through such presidential initiatives.
It's good you mentioned the RITC tax scheme, and I'm aware that has a lifespan of about 10 years. About 10 years lifespan, and we will talk about the utilization of that window. How well has that window been utilized? But Engineer Hassan, I remember during the time of former President Goodluck Jonathan, I mean, the then Minister of Works, Mike Onalumeme, was, all across the country, telling us of the robust, work on some of our major roads. And I wanted to quickly mention some of the roads because I was privileged to even, do a special report on one of those roads. That one of those roads was the Mokwa Bida Road, Akure Ijesha, Sokoto Tambuwal Jega. You also have the Fandeki Albudu. You have the okay, we've talked about Lokoja Bini, and then we heard about Abuja Lokoja Road. And those roads, we saw work done. How long does it take for a newly constructed road to begin to wear and tear? Now, is it all about funding or quality?
Thank you very much. The road have lifespan. Most of our roads are designed for about 20 years lifespan. Each road has a lifespan. We have the asphalt road, which goes between 15 and 20 years lifespan. We have the concrete road, which goes up to 30, 40, 50%. Now we even have super paved asphalt road that can go up to 30 years lifespan. So most of these roads, like the distinguished stated here, have outlived their lifespan because they were constructed in the 70s and 80s.
Out of the 56%?
Including
yes, including those that belong to state and local governments.
They have outlived their lifespan. Like the one you talk of, Ololumeme, some of them has been done and they are very good, like Mokwa Bida. We have intervention by the World Bank. The Van Deka of Budu World Bank intervened on this road. So some about almost 80 or 70% will have intervention of World Bank, and they are in good condition today. The only other one that we still have issue is the Lokoja Highway, that is still not to the standard that is supposed to be. But I want us to understand one basic thing here. When the new minister came, Engineer Umahi came, we have about 2,604 contracts covering 18,000 kilometers, requiring 14 trillion naira as at the time of this administration.
The value of the contract.
The contracts, 14 trillion. So what all this money we're talking, they are just a scratch on the surface. 100 billion, and with the inflation index we have, that 14 trillion can go to about 20-something trillion today.
Are you talking about the 260 roads which the president approved in 2023 that is costing, that was set to have?
These are the contract that have with the Federal Ministry of Works have with under contract. 2,604 contracts ongoing.
So you're saying that the roads are failing because they have outlived?
No, not that they have outlived. What we are saying, about a year or two, we have this number of contracts. And those contracts that we have on ground, their value is about 14 trillion. And I don't think we have even put up to 1 trillion on those roads.
Let's even look at, let's
I don't know that you understand what I'm trying to say.
Let's stay on the contracts, and look at the quality of the road, because if the road network across, levels of government, state, federal, and local governments, if they are in fairly, good condition, as we all said. See, somebody just sent me a message. He said, I don't think funding is the problem of the federal roads, but a criminal negligence of the Federal Ministry of Works. The Aba-Port Harcourt segment of the A3 Enugu-Port Harcourt road is still a nightmare. It's passable now that the rains hadn't started. But when the rains begin, Port Harcourt will be cut off again from the east. MD, do you have anything to say to that?
On that stretch of road, I think the Federal Ministry of Works are currently intervening. And also that stretch of road comes under the HDMI program. which there's a concessionaire on that, but it's yet to fully take up. By the time the concessionaire comes on board, there will be injection of private sector funding on that particular stretch of road. Yeah.
And now that you've
but
talked about...
currently the Federal Minister of Works and
But you know, you have not answered the question as to about quality. When Claire raised that question earlier to Engineer Hassan, he said because most of the roads, you said they have outlived.
That's why.
But we see, I want to quote the Nigerian Building and Road Research Institute.
Yes,
the Nigerian Building and Road Research Institute says that importation of substandard construction materials by contractors in the country remains one of the major factor of major reasons why we have bad roads.
I think sorry to interject. I think I can come in here. You see, the condition of our roads is a multidimensional problem. First of all, we spoke about the quality. Yes, the quality has to be there, the quality of inspection, quality of materials, and the quality of construction. But over and above all of that, in the past, the enforcement of the highway code in terms of axle load was enforced. We had way bridges by the highways that ensure that the maximum load is not exceeded. In those days, a tanker of petrol carries 33,000 liters of petrol. That's the acceptable standard. Today, you see super tankers carrying 90,000 liters of petrol on our highways. So a function of, an interplay of enforcement and also enlightenment about road culture and road maintenance habit has to be taken up. For us at the National Assembly, we see these things. We made this point even yesterday very clear. Speaking even about aligning our procurement process with our seasonal variations. In the southeast, in the next 1-2 months, the rains will come. And of course, you can't have road construction during the rainy season. You can have only minimal work going on. And we said, look, why don't we align our procurement process, align the Procurement Act with the construction period. The dry spell is a good time to maintain our road, construct our road, especially in the south, in the southeast, and maybe part of the southwest. Northeast, you can have almost 8-9 months of a dry spell. So it's a multidimensional problem. Beyond even the quality of the road, regardless of the condition of the road, if you have people carrying axle load of 60,000-70,000 tons on the road, of course, you should expect to see failures on the road.
All right. Mr. Bassi, kindly enlighten us, within the mandate of FEMA, what is rehabilitation and maintenance? What does it entail? And where are your men at this moment?
For us, FEMA, as you know, was set up as a maintenance agency to efficiently and effectively maintain all the federal roads in the country. And maintenance, in the simple terms, is maintaining what is in good condition. Yeah. But aside from that, obviously, it also involves repair and recovery of failed section. We don't go into reconstruction or building of new roads. So our major mandate is to repair, maintain, and also where you have washouts due to adverse weather condition. In fact, currently, the bulk of the work we also engage in is reinstatement of failed sections or washouts, and it's constituting a huge part of our expense in maintaining the road sector.
Outside funding, what are your challenges?
Outside
funding, what are the challenges of FEMA, in meeting your mandate?
Outside funding, it's because of, the 56% is, I'm not saying that the 56% may have been taken, has been misunderstood, but this is what the visual conditional assessment gives us. But outside FEMA, we have a network of roads to maintain, 36,000 kilometers. Obviously, the funding that is available would not be able to do that. As the chairman mentioned, the last estimate we had was 700 billion. Approximately, yes, to maintain those roads. So it's now, for us now, is to have strategic plans on how to develop forward plans, because annual funding would not cut it. So we're now developing forward plans of what we can do in year 1, what we can do in year 2, what we can do in year 3, depending on the criticality of the road.
How do you know which road to maintain? How do you determine which?
We have a road condition information for all our roads. It is continuously being updated. So currently we have a national guideline on maintenance of roads, our prioritization and selection process. So it's informed by the criticality of the road, the economic importance of the road, as the chairman said. It's not just the travel you have on federal roads, it's also those other corridors, the end corridors that takes you to the seaports, to agricultural areas, to production centers. So we also consider that. Then we also look at the national spread across the whole country. Then we also look at the traffic volumes on those roads, because obviously there will be more congestion if you don't maintain roads that have got high traffic volumes. Then we have a national guidelines that classifies or categorizes our roads into priorities 1 to 7.
Does FEMA handle the maintenance themselves, or you give contracts to companies to handle?
It's a mixture of.
What do you do to contractors who abandon?
Direct labor works.
What do you do to contractors that abandon, abandoned sites? And because I was reading about the Jigawa federal roads, the 7 federal roads. I think there was a time that when they were under reconstruction, they were abandoned at a point, and there are reports that that's also affects the quality of roads when contracts are giving contractors leave site. What does FEMA do in such situations, since you deal with contractors too?
With contractors, each contract can be determined in the sense that we start the engagement with the contractor to find out why the contractor has left site. We try to encourage the contractor to come back to site, but if it's depending on the contract period, but if the contract period lapses without the contractor coming back to site, then the project is determined. Yeah.
I'd like to ask, because it would appear that the bulk of our problem with motorable roads fall within the mandate of FEMA, because it has to do with lack of maintenance, lack of maintenance, prompt maintenance of the roads, and then as a result of the wear and tear. Travelers complain, especially when they travel down to the east. The Port Harcourt-Aba road section, Onisha area, even some parts in the southwest, when they travel, you see some sections of even the federal roads, that are bumpy. They have these ridges, I don't know what you call it, and all that. So does it worry FEMA? Is it just because you don't have the resources, or I don't know, what could be the issue that those sections of the roads are not being maintained?
It does worry FEMA. Nobody that works in FEMA can have a good night's sleep, considering the experience that travelers have on our roads. So we're constantly looking at ways of giving succor to road travelers, by making sure that they have a better travel experience, smoother travel experience on our roads. So we constantly have the conditions of travel on those roads. We have them. It becomes an issue of resourcing them, having money to maintain them. That has always been the case.
What's your relationship with the main ministry? Because I don't know. So you want to say yes?
You brought an important topic. I mean, important road, Port Harcourt-Aba.
Yes.
The issue is that most of this road we are talking about are under contract. You have contractors. So most of these federal roads that you have contractors on them, FEMA cannot
go there.
Yes. Port Harcourt, there's a CCEC are working Port Harcourt to Aba. So FEMA, whatever the situation, is the contractor and the federal ministry. So you have many of these roads that FEMA cannot even intervene because they are under contract.
What about
But
what?
there could also be a directive from the apparent ministry. We enjoy a good working relationship with them for us to do spot repairs on particular sections of roads that have contracts on them.
I was going to mention the Abuja Yaya Kefi road. I'm sure you have. I don't know.
Yes.
You applied that road. So
Yes, yes.
it's yes. Why is that road still like that state?
Actually, that too is still under contract.
It's under contract.
It's
The
part
contractor
of
is
the
okay.
Chinese funding.
Chinese Harbour construction.
Yes, Chinese Harbour. It takes from Kefi, Akwanga, down to Makodi.
Up to Enugu.
Yeah, up to Enugu, 9th mile. So it's under contract. I think maybe what, just to tie in what they are all saying, you see, once a contract is given out, at the end of the contract period and the road is delivered, there is what we call the defect liability period. That is under the purview of the contractor to maintain that road until that period expires. So at the expiration of that period, then FEMA now takes over. So the issue mainly centers around making provision in the contract for maintenance of that road during contract and after contract. And that, I think, is where some of the problems lie.
All right, Chairman, Senate Committee on FEMA. You know, we have FEMA MD here with us, so that's why we should talk about FEMA and what it's doing in maintaining our roads. Of course, we'll talk about the contractors when we have, you know, the ministry with us. But you know, you have the role to oversight FEMA.
Yes.
I want you to give us your assessment of how FEMA, you know, performed in the year 2024. I'm asking that because, you know, I'm looking at the figures that it got in 2024. I also know that FEMA got 3.3 billion naira worth of equipment from the Japan government in 2024.
Yes.
Would you say that, you know, FEMA did the needful, FEMA met its mandate, you know, to Nigerians in 2024?
Okay, I'd like to say this. During the budget presentation, which I chaired, we did a critical review of the performance of FEMA, and then, of course, in 2024, they discharged their responsibility fairly well. Of course,
just like the road.
Just like the roads. Just like the roads. I say so because, at least from the oversight we conducted across the country, like I said, okay, like Calabar 2 highway, that too is a very critical road. But of course, it's still under contract. FEMA can go in there. So a lot of the roads that are under contract are those that are drawing almost all the attention that we are getting every day. But those that are under the purview of FEMA, they have discharged their responsibility very well, especially through their direct labor. I think that's an area the MD failed to speak on. FEMA is meant to be a continuous concern, ongoing concern that will just go and fix road continuously. So I think, but part of the issues we highlighted during our budget discussion was this issue of budget ceiling, and then of course subjecting FEMA to the bureaucratic process of funding releases. Unless and until, because most of the equipment that FEMA procured in during inception 2002, 2007, most of them are old, dilapidated and archaic. And we made a case and we told the MD that we're making a case to the appropriation committee of the National Assembly that, look, funding is very critical to FEMA because our constituents are crying, Nigerians are crying because of the conditions of the road. And we do ply the road as well. So we know the condition. So overall, I think they did fairly well, but more needs to be done. And we're even looking at the idea of reviewing the FEMA Act of 2007 because it has to catch up with the times. And that is what we are reviewing to see the areas that we can do to update the
You talk about upping FEMA's funding when some people are crying that FEMA is even overfunded with the little jobs that you do. But honestly, I want to say, because I apply the Yaya Maraba Karu Road. Now the portion immediately after the Mogadishu barrack, that used to be, in fact, it was a yearly thing. But the last work that FEMA did had stabilized that place. But I think you also need to go back there again because it's beginning to wear. So what is usually the issue with such portions? when you do them in less than 3 months, 2 months, they go bad again?
It depends. It could be palliative work that was done to ensure free flow of traffic. Yeah. If it's palliative work, they are not expected to last for a very long time. Yeah. But if it's proper recovery of the section that is not palliative, then the work should not fail.
So when should palliative and recovery be done? Because I think what is needed there is recovery, not palliative. What they do there is palliative.
And maybe because if the section of the road is on contract, the work we normally intervene, the type of intervention work is normally palliative because there's already a contract on that road. Yeah.
All right, MD, you know, we'll stay with you. We'll stay with you because, you know, why roads will go bad after they have been maintained, you know, you've tried to explain that. But do you do quality assurance?
Yes, we
on
do.
On the roads, you know, that you handle?
We do. The materials that are used on the roads are tested before they are used on the roads. Then at times we take samples, core samples, to determine that the depth that is expected of the pavement is what it should be. Then we monitor over time to look at the performance of the road, measure the condition of the road. We do that, yeah.
All right, we will take a short break, but I'd like that, you know, we have talked about funding. And the essence of the RITC, which is the refurbishment investment tax credit, was to also, you know, engender public-private partnership to go into road construction and maintenance. And we saw, of course, some private entities take up this initiative just to also, you know, help the federal government, because we know that the federal government cannot do all of these things. There's so many things. Even at the state level, are states also taking advantage of this, you know, tax, you know, credit scheme? But we will begin to look at the funding options when we come back from this break. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we're looking at making our roads more travel. We'll be right back.
Our major currency unit is the Naira, while the minor unit is the Kobo. They are both in notes and coins. The Naira is more than just a medium of exchange. It bears the images of our heroes. So, stop abusing the Naira. It is a criminal offense to spray the Naira at events. Stop stepping on the Naira. It's not your enemy. Do not squeeze, ruffle, or write on the Naira. Handling the Naira with dirty or oily hands can deface the Naira. Love the Naira as you love yourself. Be a real Nigerian. Do not abuse the Naira.
When we think about the digital economy, you can see it as the marketplace for digital goods and services. And increasingly, it's becoming a force to reckon with and an incredible contributor to economic growth, because we've seen the growth in technology and digital platforms. Technology has it really permeated every aspect of life and business, the way we live, the way we work. And when we talk about the digital economy, we're really talking about leveraging technology and digital platforms in a powerful way to drive growth, to drive solutions to problems, to drive applications, and to provide services.
The digital economy is something that has the potential to help Nigeria leapfrog a lot of its development challenges, right? Because think about what the mobile phone did for Nigeria years ago. That is the potential we have for digital, because it has a way of reducing the barriers to innovation. It has a way of being able to transform service delivery, whether it's government's delivery of services or whether it's services in the health system, where people can use digital to actually be able to see their patients better. But it takes a lot to realize that potential of digital. The first thing is there are like every other thing, there's an infrastructure you have to build to be able to make sure that digital economy can thrive. Think of something like, capturing that happens in Nigeria, right? Where you capture, people's biometric when they go for a driver's license, when they go for passports, and each of those are separate things. Largely a system where we're able to streamline that and actually have a platform that exchange biometric information that makes it easier for people to access passports, easier for people to register to vote. But today it's very tough, right? But those are basic infrastructure that needs to be invested in. A lot of it is through government and private sector collaborations to make it happen.
If we're looking to accelerate growth in the Nigerian space, we really need to look at enabling the digital economy. That includes providing digital infrastructure, connectivity, because that's the highway, like the highway that everything rides on. We need to think about digital capacity building in terms of the suppliers to the economy and also the consumers within the economy. So a robust digital literacy initiative. The good thing about technology is that, one, it helps you to transcend boundaries. Two, it creates a level playing field, really, because if you create a solution, a technology-based solution that is applicable in this environment, that same technology can be applicable, exported to other environments. And, technology platforms also help drive collaboration, right? When we're thinking about innovation, when we're thinking about business growth, collaboration is an important part of that. So when we think about the impacts with the rest of the world, we find that actually technology platforms are giving us an opportunity to engage more actively, to collaborate, to create partnerships, to even export our knowledge and services for people to engage with all the great things I'm talking about technology and digital platforms. They need access, internet access, broadband access. So we need to make sure that access is more available and affordable for the average user.
The most important thing is to think about where you want to go as a country and actually what type of policies are going to help get you there. There are examples of countries who've been able to transform using digital, for example. There are very clear things those countries did to be able to make it happen. So a lot of this, the pathway to be able to solve these problems are not mysterious, right? It takes courage of the policymakers to be able to understudy some of these things and bring in the policies that work to be able to help them.
All right, thank you for staying with us on the network service of Africa's largest TV network, and our conversation is on how we can make our roads marketable, and we're beginning to get down to options or approaches that might be available to us, and that's why I have started with funding options, and we talked about the RITC that was initiated some time ago, which has a 10-year lifespan, and I'm saying how well has the private sector keyed into this to help make our roads marketable? You were part of that team.
Yes, I was part of the team. Yeah, thank you very much. I think principally there are several funding options. The RICS, the tax credit scheme, is only one of them. Sukuk has also been a very good option. I think the first one was for 100 billion. Okay. The second one was for 162 billion. The last one, before I exited service, was about 220 or 30 billion naira. Actually, it was even oversubscribed because there is this appetite for private sector participation in funding road infrastructure. And then, of course, the presidential initiative that funded the Abuja, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, and the second Niger Bridge, and part of it was also applied on Abuja-Kano Highway. Also, the tax credit was also used to fund the Bodo Boni, which is ongoing by Julius Berger, and then the Kano Kongolam that has been taken by Boa. Dangote has taken a couple of roads, Apapa or Ronshoki, which is almost being completed. So, in all of this, MTN is also taking the Port Harcourt, Enugu, Port Harcourt, Onitsha.
Which one is Access doing? I think Access also is also
Access Bank?
Yes.
Well, I wouldn't know now, but I think so. There is this interest by the private sector to fund and to partake because they are front loading their taxes to, invest in infrastructure. It's a good initiative, but I think over the years I could see a shift in that direction. Why, I don't know. I wouldn't know why, but I think it's a very good option. But at least happily enough, I've seen Sukuk has been upscaled. There is so much investment from the Sukuk. Actually, the Islamic funding option globally has risen to over $2 trillion globally. So I think it's a very good funding option for us to leverage on, because tying the road sector to the annual budgetary allocation is not good enough. You are talking of, the total Nigerian, it's about 920,000 square kilometers. And we have the federal highways, the subnationals are also investing. And then, of course, like I mentioned, if we really want to ramp up our efforts toward development, road is a very critical enabler. And I think it is important for the transformative agenda to really leverage on investing in the road sector to bring it up to the required standard.
Being a former permanent secretary in the Ministry of Works and Housing, I think it was during
Works and Housing.
Works and Housing when Fashola was minister, I think.
Yes.
Just tell us, as we begin to round up this conversation, like you've already stated, roads are critical, they are key. Outside the private, support and all of that and other ways of getting funding, some have also said use of local contractors or the kind of contractors, that handle our road projects will go a long way in determining, the state of our roads. I'd like to hear your view about that.
It's a very good initiative, and I'd like to give credit to the immediate past Minister of Works, Babatunde Raji Fashola, who actually encouraged local, we don't even call them local, we call them, Nigerian contractors, if you like. Although almost all the foreign companies bear Nigerian registration and all of that. But principally, I can give you an example. Samatech is handling the Calabar E2 federal highway, and they were quite, they demonstrated the very good ability to work on that road. So I think it's about encouraging private, Nigerian contractors' participation and giving them all the incentives to participate in the sector. It's not good enough that almost the larger chunk of our contractors are taken by foreign contracting companies. I have nothing against them, but I believe if we are really serious, that nationalistic aspect has to come in. And a lot of incentives have to be given to encourage their participation.
So, dealing with another issue that you mentioned the way the roads are used, load on the roads being a factor to, how long they last. What would be your, what would be the solution? I mean, I would like you to prefer a solution to that particular challenge, because, are we now going to say that, certain things shouldn't be allowed on our roads? How do we, use our roads effectively?
Stakeholder engagement is key. The National Association for Road Transport Owners, the National Union of Road Transport Workers, community, youth groups have to be brought together. Okay, let me give you a very small example of a very common practice, and in the next 1 month, you will see it all over Nigeria, actually. The idea of this bush burning to catch bush rats. A lot of these fires have damaged some sections of our bridges. I have had to personally, intervene in Zaria under the bridge, under a federal highway. They were burning tires to remove the wires. And if you look at the pier, of the bridge, it was already showing some level of distress and structural defects because of the activities of those people who are burning tires. So I had to encourage them. I said, look, we have no issue with you burning your tires. If it is an environmental issue, the Ministry of Environment should handle that. But for me, as a road manager, I think this is a bad practice. I had to call them and take them. So a lot of enlightenment, engagement, and also community participation has to come in. Bush side clearing by our roadside is very important. And funny enough, I think the federal government has to look into that direction. The public works, you know, the Toro Kobo you give those young men who are sitting down idle at home to clear shrubs along the highway will go a long way in, you know, bringing about, micro economic improvement in general in the sector. So going back to your question, it is in fact a continuous engagement thing. But we have drivers that can drive it, communities, the national road transport owners, state governments, local governments, they have to all be brought on board to encourage information dissemination and enlightenment for them to know best practices in road usage.
Distinguished Senator, I know in the past, you know, when I was growing up in Lagos, you used to have the weight and loads,
bridges.
Bridges, you know, that also was used to checkmate, you know, the volume and overloading and all that. Maybe we need to, you know, that needs to be reintroduced.
No, of course.
That
very
needs to be
important.
reintroduced.
Very
Even
important.
toll. I know Lagos attempted, you know, the tolling of roads and all that. So that could also
it's
be
a very good funding option, Claire, because I like to say that, you know, Nigeria perhaps is one of the countries, very few countries in the world that don't toll our roads. I'm being very honest. The honest truth is we must tell ourselves the truth. Go to Niger. Niger practices what we call closed tolling system. There are two types, open and closed. The closed tolling system, you pay for a particular trip, let's say from Abuja to Nasarawa. If you are passing, if you are going beyond Nasarawa, you have to pay again to your destination. That's the closed system. The open one is you pay and you continue using the road all day or all year. So I think it's important for us to look at that option, because it will even bring about responsible road usage. In those days, it is at the toll gates you find the military officers, the police officers checking, you know, particulars, you know, the Road Safety Commission, and then the way bridges. Look, there is no way you can have good motorable roads if we don't.
You see trucks. I don't know if we can see those, you know.
Clear.
Yes.
Trucks carrying more than 100 tons. 100 tons on our highways. Asphalt. Even concrete pavement cannot, rigid pavements cannot withstand the weight. 30 tons. That's the maximum weight.
You see some of those long vehicles, you know, and all that.
Yes.
Okay, let me ask the MD, because Yenre asked earlier on about your challenges. And the State Senator, you know, has been advocating more funding for FEMA. Whereas some out there will seem as if FEMA is being given, you know, too much for just patching, you know, of failed roads and all that. But you know what your problems, the challenges you face are in trying to carry out, you know, your assignment and ensuring that Nigerians enjoy, you know, Abuja. You talk about Abuja, yes. When you ride or drive, you know, around the streets of Abuja, you enjoy driving. You can get to one place in no time. And even from Kefi now, I hear from Kefi almost straight to some parts of Kaduna. The road is Makurdi. Yes, Makurdi. It's beautiful ride. It's beautiful ride. So what will it take for FEMA to sit up to their responsibilities? I know you are sitting up. Maybe stand tall.
Thank you. I think it's an understatement to say that we're overfunded. It's far from the truth. If we have an estimate of 700 billion and you are getting 26.5 billion for capital projects, it shows that we are grossly underfunded. But the other issue, as you mentioned, is the road abuses that we have on our roads, the behavior of road users or drivers or motorists on our roads. You have, I think the chairman has spoken to issues that borders on vandalization of our infrastructure, and also vehicles, heavy goods vehicles parking on our shoulders. And those shoulders are not designed to carry static loads, which is what you have there. The issue of excessive axle load, currently, I want to add that the Federal Ministry of Works have constructed about 27 weight bridges across the network, but those weight bridges are yet to be operationalized. We're hoping that FEMA will now take over those weight bridges and put them into use.
You know,
but some of them also falls under alignments that have been concessions. So those ones that are within alignments that have been concessions, obviously we don't have any role to play there. Yeah.
Can you name some of those bridges for us? The weight bridges.
27. I think between Kaduna and it's at the point of where you have former toll gates.
Okay.
I think that's why they've been constructed. Yes.
Okay.
Ojota. Yes. So yeah, 27 in number. Yes.
Zaria, you have 3 on that stretch of highway, and then of course, it's on the existing former federal highways, the former toll gates.
All right, Dr. Agbasi, talking about your challenges, I'm just wondering what FEMA does when a contractor who is built to construct a road, doesn't do the needful. Because I mean, it's what happens is that the roads would fail on time. For example, structural weaknesses on roads, inadequate drainage, and all of that. I'm sure you know all of that. You are the engineer here. Poor planning and design, of course, affects the state of our road over time. I mean, does FEMA draw the attention of the ministry? Maybe, for example, a new road is constructed, and then that from the way it was constructed, I mean, with all the failures here and there, it's not like it's going to last so long. Do you do anything, just so that they check that from the beginning with the contractors and not waste more money trying to maintain it?
Unfortunately, we don't get involved at that early part of the process. But FEMA has also advocated for what we call design for maintenance. In other climes, when you're designing infrastructure, you consider what are the maintenance challenges or what are likely to be the maintenance issues on that particular infrastructure. That's what we've been advocating for. And also to have a whole life approach, infrastructure approach, perspective to managing and building of infrastructure. So you don't only concentrate on the construction, you also look at what will happen during the service life of that infrastructure. Because as has been said, the service life of that infrastructure constitutes about 15 to 20 years. That's really where more attention needs to be paid.
I want to, Engineer Hassan, again, you talk about the lifespan of, of our roads. Inri just asked the question. And I want to believe that's the reason why Minister Umahi is having the rescoping issue with Julius Berger. And, is asking Julius Berger to revalidate and, of course, which ended with the revocation of contract. But what is the quality of roads that we should be, aiming at now? Minister Umahi is very emphatic. He doesn't want... Maybe he's thinking about concrete and super pep.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. In 1987, American government roads have similar challenges, and they constitute a kind of committee, superhighway study of about $150 million to understand why their roads are the way they are. At the outcome of this intervention, that's why we have the super PEP. Because traditionally now we are constructing our road with what we call the empirical Marshall test asphalt. The super PEP is another special asphalt. But what I'm trying to say is that all these things are guided by standard and specifications for anything you are constructing that will last that 20 or 30 years. And if you design and follow those federal highway specifications for bridges and roads, there's no way you will have any issues. Most of our roads in other places have lasted that 20, even 30 years.
Okay.
Within Abuja and other parts of the country, have lasted that.
We are having climate change and variation.
Yeah, that's another issue, yes.
Are we taking that into consideration?
Definitely in our design now. That's why we have to take the whole cycle, like FEMA now, of design, maintenance, and so in all the activities now. Because you have to hold the whole cycle of design. I mean, whatever you are designing now, you have to take that issue of cycle. And some of these other population growth, development and other, when these roads were constructed in the past, most of these places were bushes. Most of the drainages, because water is the #1 enemy of the road. Most of these roads, you have villages, I mean, you have just bush. We design what you call turnout, whereby water will be drained by the side of the road. Most of those places now have been developed and built, and the water have nowhere to go. These are other factors that we have to consider in most of our design today. You see how, because water is a major problem. Just to summarize, I think we need a basic reform to be like other countries. We have the highway reform that's supposed to go 8 assembly and 9 assembly that were not passed. We hope the 10 assembly will try to work on that and pass, because the budgetary allocation cannot take care of our road. That is the truth.
All right. Many thanks, Engineer Hassan. Of course, as we round up the conversation, I do not know if Claire has seen the video that is trending on social media. We've not talked about corruption and mismanagement in this sector. You know, there's a video on social media, Claire, I do not know if you've seen it, about a certain amount budgeted for road. And then as the contractor is trying to plan to go to site, he has to settle many people, and eventually he just went to the road and painted it, because I mean there was nothing left for him to carry out, you know, the work that, you know, was supposed to be done. You know, we agree that yes, funds may not be enough, but using what we have effectively would mean that we would have some number of good roads, you know, that would last the test of time. But how do we deal with that, really, just so that contractors do the needful, as said, you know, as at the time the contract is signed, and you know it is executed that way, and Nigerians get to enjoy the roads?
Okay, thank you very much. I wouldn't want to contest that narrative because FEMA is just a microcosm of the larger Nigerian economy, so I wouldn't want to speak on that. But principally, I think it is about monitoring and evaluation. It's about taking our responsibilities very serious. And the 10th National Assembly, under the leadership of Godswill Obot Akpabio, the Senate President, has emphasized on the need for all committees to be up and doing. I think I had done oversight about 4 times. Oftentimes, without even the knowledge of the management of FEMA, we go out to site and we have consultants working with us, consultants, key engineers who follow us to site, to take core samples, evaluate, and give us a report of what they have seen and what needs to be done. I think it's about prioritizing and about following the money. So far, we have done much in that regard in terms of engaging FEMA with the minister to really ramp up our inspection and evaluation of the impact of the work we are doing. But the issue for me, it's about our attitude to road maintenance and road use. It's very critical.
Let the MD in 60 seconds. What is your critical message you want to send out to the viewer and to, you know, stakeholders?
To farmer stakeholders, it's to work in collaboration and partnership to ensure that infrastructure that we've put in so much money on achieves the intended value, which is to maximize the utility and serviceability of existing road infrastructure.
Right. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us for this conversation. It's been very, very insightful. Many thanks, Senator Babangida Hussaini Walin Kazare, the representing Jigawa Northwest Senatorial District in the National Assembly, and the Chairman Senate Committee on FEMA. It was a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here.
All right. I also would like to appreciate Dr. Chukwuemeka Agbasi. Your very first time with us, I think. I would want to see more of you, by the way. He's the MD, Federal Roads Maintenance Agency, FEMA. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Also, Engineer Saidu Hassan, National President, Nigerian Institution of Highways and Transportation Engineers. Many thanks for joining us, Engineer. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Like Claire said, thank God it's Friday. And anyway, John, enjoy your weekend.
Just before we say, I'd just like to let us thank Lord Lugard. He started the first motorable road in Nigeria, and I think that was from Zaria to Zungeru. And then the first highway was from Ibadan to Old Oyo. Just a point of history.
Now
and that's why history is
about
important.
to retire.
I am Claire Adelabu Abdul Rasak. We appreciate your time. Do enjoy the rest of your day and, of course, your weekend. Bye-bye.